Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Do It Yourself. This happened at a small outdoor live music event. The budget was tiny, so the event had a bare-bones setup consisting of a drum set, a couple of amplifiers and mics, and all that goes to a mixer board. The soundman hired for the show looked more like a bodyguard or a bouncer at a club. A huge skinhead guy wearing all black and looked intimidating. As the show got underway, it was clear that the sound was terrible. Thanks to the soundman fiddling with the mixer, the sound swung back and forth between muddy and screeching feedback. He was probably attempting to improve things, but it wasn't working. Then, while one band was leaving and another started to set up, unbearably loud feedback started happening. Everyone had to cover their ears till the soundman brought the volume down. A teenager shouted at the soundman, "Hey, cut the highs, man, cut the highs." The big intimidating soundman didn't like this one bit. "Hey, do you think you are so smart? Why don't you come down here and be the soundman?" "Wait, really? Are you serious?" said the teen. "Yeah, come down here and be the soundman if you are so smart. Or shut up." The teen walked over to the mixer. The kid clearly knew what he was doing, because he didn't hesitate with any of the knobs and levels. He then asked the band to do a quick sound check, going through all the levels of each mic, including the drums. Everything took maybe 5 minutes. When the band started their set, it was obvious to everyone that the sound was much better. The big intimidating soundman was red-faced. He didn't touch the mixer after that. The next story is called Up to Code. Our neighbor reported our old but sturdy shed to the city for being too large without a permit. Inspector comes out, measures. Nope, the shed is well under the size limits and doesn't need a permit. The husband starts asking questions about the rules and gets all the specifics on what is allowed. The shed is old and very basic. Why not have a bigger, better shed? The inspector knows the neighbor. She used to work in the planning department, knows the rules and clearly was just trying to make trouble. He looks into her property and says he can see a good half-dozen issues if he'd like to report them. We laugh, but nah, we're gonna go the malicious compliance route. We rip down the shed, hoping the neighbor is smugly gloating to herself. We do nothing for 3 weeks, except draw up plans, buy material, lay the foundation and line up a couple of construction friends to help. Then, one Saturday, our glorious big new shed goes up. We hadn't heard from this neighbor in the 3 weeks, but now she's asking about our new shed. She'd love to see inside if we don't mind. We did. Cue another inspection notice for building a granny flat. The shed on our property. Obviously, the inspection goes fine. Well, except those violations on the neighbor's property. That unpermitted open fire pit built right against the retaining wall and fence is a concern. We don't want it burning down our new shed. She's got a couple of guys out there right now jackhammering out concrete. I think I'll offer them some cold drinks from the mini fridge in the new shed. The third story is called Building Compliance. I grew up speaking a Scandinavian language at home. This came in really handy once I got a job as a data entry person at a freight billing company. The clients would send their freight, and the bills would come to us as a third-party billing company. We would enter them into our system sorted by client and tracking number, or equivalent. There was one company, a popular shredding business with a triangle logo. I saw that there were stacks of bills that used the English name of the company, and also stacks of bills with the same tracking numbers that were basically duplicate bills that used the Norwegian or Swedish name. The company was getting billed twice for all its freight shipments. I told the auditor, my boss, who handled client communications, and she told me to enter them using the corresponding company name. Okay, whatever. I was getting paid by the number of bills I entered that weren't rejected by our system, not that weren't rejected by the client's system. So I entered them as the company that each shed it was on the letterhead of that particular bill. We then had 2 databases of bills that were the same tracking numbers and same everything, but that we were billing different companies for at the same address. The client, of course, was refusing to pay whichever bill got entered as the non-duplicate, and my boss couldn't understand why. She came back to me and asked me to explain again why I thought that they were the same company. I happened to have a language dictionary with me on that day, because I was talking about languages with someone else. So I showed her what the 2 words translated into. She called the company. Same phone numbers for both on the letterhead. and had a half-hour talk with someone there. It turned out that the company name was the founder's last name, which was a place name in the old country. People weren't pronouncing it correctly, and they always got questions about it, so they decided to change to the English translation of the name. Apparently, they thought everyone would just know somehow that it was the same, so they didn't tell the auditor. My boss and the company owner thanked me for catching the error and insisting that it was the same. And I entered all the foreign trade bills for a while, because my boss's boss knew I would be able to figure them out. The next story is called Brake Compliance. Many years ago, I worked at a gas station. It wasn't a big fancy station. It was a satellite of a grocery store. Nothing more than a tiny kiosk next to a dozen pumps. My co-workers ranged from cool to worthless. This story is about one of the worthless ones. Let's call her Sandy. Sandy was fairly new to our kiosk, but not to the job, having transferred over from another gas station in the company. Right out of the gate, this was a problem. She had her way of doing things, and we had ours. Naturally, Sandy expected all of her new co-workers to change to suit her, not the other way around. One day it was me and Sandy on the afternoon shift. There were only ever 2 employees, only enough space for 2 people in that shack of a gas station, so we covered each other's breaks. Normally, because I'm a team player, I would take my breaks in the little office in the back. If my co-workers needed me, all they had to do was yell. But on that particular Friday, Sandy and I had a problem. She decided to take both of her breaks at once. It wasn't uncommon for us to take a 45-minute break instead of a half and a 15, but it was something we had to clear with our co-workers before doing. It was also against company policy, but we didn't really care about that. An hour before rush hour, the busiest time of day with the largest concentration of bad customers, she wanted to take her break. That's fine, nothing wrong. I told her I would take my half hour after hers, then we'd both run tills for the rush. Half an hour came and went. She didn't come back. Another half hour during which I should have been on break, still not back. Another 15 minutes, she comes in and gets on till. No apologies for taking a long break unannounced or for coming back late from that long break. When I mentioned it, she replied, "I don't know why you're getting angry. All you ever do is sit in the back. And I wouldn't get upset with you if you took a long break." So I told her, "I'll hold you to that." Then I walked out. I bought a paper, went down the street to a restaurant, sat down with a big bowl of noodles and veggies and took my sweet time. All the 9-to-5ers on their way home from work were her problem. Exactly 45 minutes after I left, I made sure it was to the minute I walked back into the kiosk. Sandy was not behind the till. My manager was. Apparently, Sandy couldn't handle the situation and started crying. I don't know if it was me just walking out, the workload, or any particular customer that got to her. My manager was called, drove into town and took over until I came back. Let's call her Tam. Tam wasn't angry with me. Not anymore at least. She was pretty mad when she showed up to relieve Sandy. Poor girl had to be sent home. But she had found a brief window in which to check the security cameras. It turns out Sandy told her that she had taken her half-hour break earlier. Then I didn't bother taking mine until the rush, because I didn't want to work. Tam decided to check that on the cameras, and by the time I came back, she already knew Sandy was lying to her. I didn't have to say a thing in my own defense. Sandy was punished for the long break and the lying, but was not fired. However, on the rare occasion we were scheduled together afterward, she took her breaks when and for how long I told her to. Good times. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.